Now after Lodhi, Delhi Sultanate was under Mughal Empire. The thing is that we are discussing now India with respect to Delhi Sultanate. And so we are more and more concentrated over Delhi region first. After finishing out this, we are going to discuss about the smaller kingdom. Again, post-Sultanate period we have to discuss in detail. So first, let us finish out one line of history, that is the Delhi Sultanate first. Babur, as we have discussed in earlier lecture, entire name was something Zahiruddin al-Muhammad Babur. He was no doubt great warrior. He used cavalry in India first time, and therefore he was victorious over Ibrahim Khan Lodi, the last ruler of Lodi dynasty. No doubt Babur was a good general. Babur was having new style of fighting, that he arranged his army in such a way that any group of soldiers, that is smaller troops, he can move from one place to another very easily. The army was well planned and well disciplined, and of course the impact of cavalry was much more. So he was able to defeat Ibrahim Khan Lodi on the battle of Panipat and able to form a firm rule over Delhi. Keep in mind, Babur was Mongol, but he was not liking out that word Mongol. So he termed as Mughal. So after giving name Mughal, but still we have to keep in mind they were Mongols and wandering Mongols in Central Asia. Out of that they ultimately settled in India. We are discussing out from long period that the Mongol invasion under rule of Alauddin Khilji, Jalaluddin Khilji, Balban, and so that every time these Mongol raids were there from northern part of India, especially from Afghanistan region, the Mongols were riding out and ultimately they were settled in India. So this point is very important. In order to protect India from outside attack, the Indian ruler must keep a constant watch on Afghanistan. So we are drawing map once again, because as we are aware that this is very essential. You can draw with me, you will get another practice. Now I am drawing somewhat smaller map over here. This Afghanistan portion is very important in order to protect India. One must keep close eye what is happening on Afghanistan part and what is happening beyond Afghanistan. Now this is not immediately concerned, but it is concerned with Indian history, that why Britishers were able to rule India for a longer period and without any foreign attack on India during Britishers rule. The reason the Britishers kept close contact and close eye on Afghanistan. During British rule, Russia was coming out from northern side. So Russia was trying to conquer this whole region. So Britishers kept Afghanistan under control in such a way that Russians were not able to advance in Afghanistan during those days. Same way, Britishers maintained a buffer state over here. So these states they maintained as buffer state. This is Tibet. So Tibet was maintained as buffer state. Same way, Afghanistan was also maintained as buffer state. Buffer state means that the foreign attack, if is there, then that will be absorbed by this state first. We can supply weapons and ask these people to fight in order to protect their freedom. And then we will arrange for fight for longer period. So this was the protective method. As Britishers were able to do this, the earlier Indian rulers, inclusive of Muslim rulers, they were not able to do. Why? There were continuous Mongol invasion, especially during Muslim rule. The reason was that Mongols were now wandering, they were encouraged by Genghis Khan, later on Temurlang, and so they were continuously engaged with war. But though Indian ruler was in position that okay, we'll march to Afghanistan, we'll cross out the borders of Afghanistan and make check on Central Asia. No doubt, this ambition was shown by only one ruler, and historians are calling him mad. That was Muhammad bin Tughlaq. But the result, that means idea was nice, but this idea was not materialized. In order to get continuous control, check over Central Asian provinces, because if you protect Central Asian provinces, then the foreign invasion will not there in India. So Central Asia portion was very important, and as our rulers were not able to protect or not able to penetrate in Central Asia, they were from Central Asia, but once they entered in India, they lost out their control with Central Asia. And so the foreign invasion, especially Mongol invaders, were invading India again and again, and ultimately, finally, when Babur was able to capture the throne, he was successful. Henceforth, no further Mongol attack was there on India directly. Babur established his empire, especially from Punjab, so same way as Muhammad Ghori. So from Punjab, Rajasthan northern part, UP, and till Bihar, he ruled in India for 4 years. He was patron of Turki language, and he wrote a book, biography, autobiography of Babur, named as Tuzuk-i-Babari. So this Tuzuk-i-Babari, that was written by Babur, and he described India in that Tuzuk-i-Babari. No doubt he was foreign invader only, and he was not giving any good word about India. Instead, he was in the position that India is a nation of, one can say, they are not friendly. Now, how they can be friendly? If you are invading India, you are destructing Indian things, how we can become friendly with you? But he is writing in this way, that India, the people of India, they are not friendly. Then second thing, he is writing that Indian cities are dirty, and no landscape, mountain ranges, no beautiful landscape is there. Everywhere only plain region is there. Now simple thing, we are aware that Babur was ruling over the plains of Ganga and Yamuna and parts of Punjab. Obviously that region geographically only plain. That means not entire India is plain. But he is writing this way, that India is plain. Alright. Then what about the world's greatest mountain? That is there in India only, was and is. So why he is writing? That means simply one should not rely much on whatever written in Tuzuk-i-Babari, because simply as he is writing, Indians were not friendly. This can be taken from the point as foreign invader, Indians were treating very nicely. Why we should be friendly with these foreign invaders? What was the great thing that Babur was having that we should welcome him? Can we call him, okay, come on and destroy our temples, come in India and destroy our monuments, whatever the good architectural work is there, destroy that, please come and destroy. Can we argue like this? Can you call like this? If he is continuously carrying out this thing and still expecting friendship from Indian, this is really a type of cheat work that is there. No doubt Babur was foreign invader. He was not Indianized or in love of India. He was in love of booty, whatever the wealth is there in India, and he was having ambition to establish vast empire in India. But unfortunately for him, he was able to rule only for 4 years in India. After defeating Ibrahim Khan Lodi, he faced another great trouble, that is the trouble of Rana Sangh, a Rajput emperor, and ultimately he was defeated. Babur was a great warrior. His experience in Central Asia used over here, and he was able to defeat Rana Sangh completely. And now, as northern India was now under control of Babur, he was having no enemy in northern India because of these 2 big wars. That was against Pathan or Lodhi dynasty, against Rajput, that is against Rana Sangh. He was able to gain a huge victory, and ultimately at the age of 48 he died, giving his throne to his own son Humayun. The meaning of Humayun is lucky, but history proved that the name, no doubt the name is lucky, he was unlucky person. Humayun was having throne, but unconsolidated empire and empty treasury was problem of Humayun. Babur was able to construct empire, but he was not having sufficient time, and ultimately what we can expect from these riders? They are just having interest in plunder and destruction. The Mongols were like Hun only, and by racially they were all belong to Huns, or Mongol belong to Mongolia only. So these Mongols, no doubt that they were very good in war, but administrative setup and other things, initially they were not having that much strength, so only carried out raids, then collecting out huge loot, only that was the aim. So how we can establish, how that Babur was able to establish a firm empire that was not there. With empty treasury, Humayun tried to gain wealth and strengthen his empire. But the problem was there that no doubt Babur was Muslim, but he was converted to Shia. There are 2 sects in Muslim, Shia and Sunni. As we had discussed earlier, that 2 sects, especially Iran, that was having Shia sect, whereas rest of the world, majority, they were Muslims, Sunni. So Babur was actually Sunni Muslim, but to gain help from Iran, he was converted to Shia. And then he was helped by Iran, the Shah of Iran. Same way, the Humayun, again, Humayun was also Sunni. Then, no doubt they were Muslims, but from that side, Babur or Humayun was Mongol. Whereas the remaining of Lodhi dynasty, the remains of Lodhi dynasty, they were Pathans. And out of that, one important Pathan was there, or Afghan was there. He was Sher Shah Suri. He was also Muslim, but Afghan. and he tried to establish Afghan rule in northern part of India. He was having rule in Bihar. He extended that in Bengal, and some eastern part of India was under Afghan control. He was gaining very good revenue from Bengal and Bihar. And there was alliance with Gujarat. Bahadur Shah, the emperor of Gujarat, he was aligned with this Sher Shah. And togetherly or jointly, they produced threat for Delhi Sultan. Initially, Humayun was able to defeat Sher Shah, and Sher Shah accepted suzerainty of Humayun. But again, after some time, he refused that. Humayun carried out lots of war with Sher Shah, Bahadur Shah, and apart from that, his own brothers. Because the son of Babur, they were also having idea to conquer throne of India. So he tried a lot of wars with his own brothers, Sher Shah Suri as well as Bahadur Shah. Once he arrived till Gujarat and was able to defeat Bahadur Shah. I don't know what is true or false, but I have heard many things about Bahadur Shah. In the book of Professor Deshmukh, I read like this thing, that Bahadur Shah was very heavy, massive object. He was in the requirement of 20 kilogram food in a day. Per day, it is said that if he is not carrying out war and administration, then you will find always that he is sleeping. And on both sides of bed, fresh food is kept. The moment he wake up, immediately that whatever food he start consuming, and again he was going to sleep. So like that, stories are there. Whether these are true or not, I don't know. But Bahadur Shah was defeated by Humayun. But immediately after return of Humayun, Bahadur Shah again declared independence. Same way about this Malwa region. The Malwa also declared independence. And then ultimately Sher Shah Suri marched towards this Delhi. And in the battle, Humayun lost the battle and ultimately fled away in the Sindh territory. So this way, from Delhi to Sindh, he marched, and Delhi Sultanate was now in hands of Afghan family again. So firstly, it was under Afghan family under Lodhi dynasty. Alauddin Khilji we are considering as Turkey, or Khilji dynasty we are considering as Turkey. But this Lodhi dynasty, Afghan. So after Lodhi dynasty, Sher Shah Suri, the second Afghan rule was given by this Sher Shah Suri, and Humayun was defeated. Ultimately, Humayun reached in Sindh territory. He married with one girl, somewhere around 14 years old. In those days, he married with that girl, and when he was wandering in this Baluchistan region, during that he got son, that is famous Mughal Emperor Akbar. So the birth of Akbar is there in somewhere desert of Baluchistan, when Humayun was wandering without his empire. But ultimately he reached in Iran. He accepted Shia, that means he converted to Shia, and then helped by Emperor of Iran. And then he marched again in India. So total for 12 years he wandered without empire. At the end of 12 years, he was able to gain throne of Delhi once again, because Sher Shah Suri was now not there, and so he was able to capture the throne of Delhi once again, and start settling out but again he was unlucky because just in 1.5 years after gaining the throne, he lost his life by accident on the terrace. It is said that he was just stepping down from terrace and fall and died. So this is about the Humayun's rule. So totally, Humayun first established his rule, then lost his entire control on empire. Again, with help of Iran, he was able to gain the throne. That means Mughal Empire was at that position again at end of Babur. So this is the thing of Mughal Empire. So initial two rulers, they were just able to establish empire. Now just think of what is the life of people over there. Just try to think of that under Delhi Sultanate, the continuous wars were there. The war for Delhi and the neighboring entire territory. So during this, how you can expect a stable life and prosperous life, because this was just fighting for the throne, and the common people were troubled in those days. Therefore, in many regions, we are calling that the rule of Mughal, that was not perfect. Rule of Mughal means the matter of anarchy. The problems are observed over there, and today also we are calling a undisciplined rule as rule of Mughal. So administration wise, these Mughals were very weak, and initially they were not able to build up and maintain their empire. No doubt Akbar, really we have to call as Akbar the Great, because he converted this problematic state into vast, well organized empire. He was really diplomatic ruler. So this is all credit of Mughal Empire. If credit is there, then all credit of Mughal Empire goes to Akbar, and not it goes to Babur or Humayun, because Babur and Humayun, they were able to just found empire. Humayun lost and again found. So for the victory of Humayun, Indian people sacrificed. It was all against common peoples. So continuously Punjab, Haryana, northern part of Uttar Pradesh, western part of Uttar Pradesh, northern part of Rajasthan, this entire territory was under struggle and troubled, and that's why during this particular period the migrations of people from North India to South India were prominent. Say for example, many people from Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, parts of Malwa, especially from this portion, they migrated towards south side, and they get sheltered in Deccan, especially in south part of Gujarat, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh territory. Maharashtra was not directly under rule of Mongol in those days. Bahmani kingdoms, no doubt, here also same thing. The Bahmani rulers were also continuously fighting. So there was also not that much stability, but with compared to Mongol raids, the southern portion was somewhat safe. And therefore, many people from northern India were migrated, especially Hindus, migrated to South India in order to achieve somewhat stability. So like that, we can find out even the ancestor of Shivaji. They were from Sisodia clan of Rajput, and it is believed that they were having relationship with Padmini, that Alauddin Khilji, Chittor war, in that Padmini was famous. So they were connected in that Sisodia family, and later on they migrated from northern India to South India. So from father's side, Shivaji was having origin in Rajasthan, whereas from mother's side, he was having origin in Maharashtra, that is the Yadav dynasty. So during this particular period of Sultanate and the constant war, northern India was very, very unstable, resulting strong migrations from north to south, and ultimately resulting a mixing of culture. We can observe in Maharashtra many clans, they were settled in Maharashtra. Now we can find out, as we are discussing about Parmar, that Gurjar Pratihar dynasty ruling in Rajasthan. Then Parmar were also ruler. They were termed as Pawars and settled in Maharashtra. So many rulers from northern India get settled over here, and a mixed culture was formed over here. So this is the important thing, that northern India, migration from northern India to South India, no doubt from ancient period this migration is going on, but during this Mughal period the migration was dominant. Before that also we have evidence like Muhammad Tughlaq. He changed out capital from Delhi to Devgiri, that is Daulatabad. So like that things were continuously going on. Now after death of Humayun, again there was trouble for the Delhi Sultanate, and again Afghan tried to conquer the throne. Now Akbar was very, what we can say, at just 14 years old when Humayun died, and therefore Akbar was guided by his uncle. Now they lost out Delhi once again. The reason simple, the Afghans were having claim on Delhi Sultanate. Then again Hindus were also claiming out the Delhi, and that was somewhat tri-party war, like we are discussing Rashtraput, Pal and Gurjar Pratihar. Same style of war one can expect over here. And Akbar is the successful leader to solve this triangle. Let us discuss. Was at that time just at age of 14 or 13 complete, rather we can say. He was guided by his uncle Bairam Khan. He was tutor of Akbar, he was protector of Akbar, and no doubt that Afghans were again tried to conquer Delhi. Adil Shah was the ruler, and his general was Hemu. Under leadership of Hemu, they conquered Delhi once again. And in order to get victory over Delhi, Akbar marched towards Delhi again, and the battle here somewhere, that is the battle of Panipat, the second battle of Panipat, that was there between, really we should call Bairam Khan, but on technically Akbar. So Bairam Khan was fighting on behalf of Akbar, and so we are calling the second battle between Akbar and Hemu. Or you can keep in mind Bairam Khan and Hemu. The battle of Panipat, that is famous. The first battle, as we have discussed, that was there between Babur and Ibrahim Khan Lodi. And now this was also again Akbar and Hemu. But Hemu was helped by Afghan. And Akbar was the winner. Actually, history is different. It is said that Bairam Khan was the winner. Hemu was taken as captive, and Bairam Khan asked to kill him. Akbar was not able to do that thing, as Akbar was small. So ultimately, Bairam Khan was there who killed Hemu with his own hands. But later on, as throne was captured, slowly and steadily, Akbar gained entire power. He sent Bairam Khan to Mecca and ultimately he was killed in the journey. And so this way Akbar was freed from the governorship of this Bahram Khan and consolidated power in his own hands. But before now discussing the Akbar, we have to discuss something about Sher Shah Suri, the ablest Afghan ruler of Delhi. No doubt he ruled for very few years, but his rule was very, very remarkable in the history. And today also, because whatever we are using the currency of India, now we are calling that as Rupaya, that was used or that was started by Sher Shah Suri. So earlier we had discussed about Tanka, then other currencies. But now present day, whatever currency we are using, that is having source till till Sher Shah Suri. Now we are discussing the rule of Sher Shah Suri